smoke billows from the Casino Royale in Monterrey, northern Mexico. 24 gunmen burst into the premises on Thursday, apparently with the intention of robbing it. They then doused the inside with flammable liquid and started a fire.
Mexico City's chief of police was shot and injured early Friday in a dramatic assassination attempt that took the lives of 2 of his bodyguards.
It's not very often that we see or hear about women getting involved in brutal criminal enterprises like narco trades, but when they do, they're usually more vicious, cruel, ruthless, and even more dangerous than their male counterparts. One such woman was Leticia Rodríguez Lara, also known as Doña Lety, or La 40, the leader of the Cancun cartel, one of the most brutal and violent illegal substance trafficking organizations that terrorized the tourist paradise of Cancun and the Riviera Maya. She was a former federal police officer who turned rogue when she joined the ranks of the Sinaloa cartel and later formed her own network of loyal hitmen and gangsters. She challenged the most feared cartels in Mexico and even took on the legendary El Chapo himself. She showed that what a man can do, a woman can do better, or worse, much worse. But how did she rise to such power and influence? How did she manage to evade capture for so long? And what was her ultimate fate at the end? Let's find out in this video. Doña Lety was not always a criminal. She was just a poor child born into the violent and crime-ridden neighborhood of Veracruz, Mexico in 1968. Like most people who turn out to be violent in the future, Doña Lety had a very difficult childhood, marked by abuse and neglect. She dropped out of school at an early age and started working as a street vendor to support herself. Growing up, as a child, Doña Lety witnessed the disastrous effects of corruption and violence caused by illegal drug trades of cartels and gangs. So, within herself, she decided that she was going to pursue a career in law enforcement, with the hopes that she would make a difference in the world and improve the situation of her people. This dream materialized in 1997 when she joined the Federal Preventive Police, a federal law enforcement agency that was created to combat organized crime and illegal substance trafficking in Mexico. She was assigned to the Airport Security Division, where she was responsible for inspecting luggage and passengers. Doña Lety was said to be a very dedicated and honest officer who earned the respect and trust of her colleagues and superiors. However, things changed in 2005 when she was approached by a man named Arturo Beltran-Leyva, who was one of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, the most powerful drug cartel in Mexico at the time. Beltran-Leyva offered her a deal. He would pay her a large sum of money in exchange for information and protection. He wanted her to help him smuggle a few pounds of controlled substances and money through the airport, as well as to tip him off about any police operations or investigations against him. Seduced by the huge monetary benefits Beltran offered, Doña Lety betrayed her oath and duty as a police officer. She accepted the deal and became Beltran's informant and accomplice, and that was the moment that marked the beginning of her journey into the world of organized crime. She started recruiting other corrupt officers to join her network, and that was how she formed a group of rogue agents that was known as La 40. As a police officer, Doña Lety was so efficient and ruthless with criminals that she could pass as a super cop, and she brought this same energy with her as she joined the cartel. She proved to be very efficient and loyal to Beltran-Leyva, who rewarded her generously while giving her more responsibilities and influence. However, things changed again in 2008 when Beltran-Leyva split from the Sinaloa cartel after accusing its leader, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, of betraying him to the authorities. This sparked a bloody war between the two factions, which resulted in many deaths and arrests. Doña Lety decided to switch sides and join the Sinaloa cartel. It was during this time that she also decided to create her own criminal organization, independent from the Sinaloa cartel, but allied with it. In addition to the numerous hitmen she hired, Doña Lety also recruited former members of Los Zetas and the Gulf Cartel, two of the most violent and ruthless cartels in Mexico, who had been displaced or weakened by the Sinaloa cartel. She would then name her group Los Pelones, which means the bald ones, after their shaved heads. However, Doña Lety's ambition was to take over the tourist zone of Cancun, which was one of the most lucrative and strategic areas for illegal substance trafficking in Mexico. Cancun was not only a popular destination for tourists from all over the world, but also a gateway for drugs coming from South America and going to the United States and Europe. Doña Lety saw an opportunity to make millions of dollars by controlling the narcotics market in Cancun, as well as extorting money from the local businesses and people. So she launched a violent campaign to conquer Cancun, But she was not going to do so easily without a brutal confrontation from the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, the CJNG, and the Los Zetas cartel. Now, for some context, and in case you don't know, aside from the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG and the Los Zetas were two of the most violent and powerful drug cartels in Mexico. They have been involved in a bloody war for territory and influence since 2010, when the CJNG split from the Sinaloa cartel and declared itself an enemy of the Zetas. The CJNG is known for its aggressive use of extreme violence and its public relations campaigns. It has carried out several high-profile attacks in the Mexican government, such as the 2015 ambush that killed 15 police officers in Jalisco.
In Mexico, on Monday, 15 police officers were killed in an ambush by suspected gang members in the southwestern state of Jalisco. 5 others were wounded.
The 2020 assassination attempt on Mexico City's security chief.
Mexico City's chief of police was shot and injured early Friday in a dramatic assassination attempt that took the lives of 2 of his bodyguards.
And the 2015 downing of a military helicopter with a rocket-propelled grenade. The CJNG also uses brutal methods to intimidate and eliminate its rivals, such as beatings, dismemberments, acid baths, and mass graves. In 2011, a faction of the CJNG called the Matas Zetas, the Zeta Killers, carried out a mass execution of 35 people in Veracruz that the group claimed were members of the rival Los Zetas cartel.
More violence in Mexico, but on a worrying scale. 35 bodies dumped underneath a bridge in eastern Mexico. Veracruz was a quiet port city. Now, dead men and women are dumped near shopping centres.
2 days later, an additional 11 bodies of Zetas that the CJNG were suspected to have taken out were found around the city. Talking of the diabolically notorious Los Zetas, those guys are infamous for their savagery and cannibalism, a cartel that chops up their victims and feasts on them. You can ask anybody in Mexico, and they'll tell you the story. The Los Zetas originated as a group of elite military deserters who became enforcers for the Gulf Cartel, but later broke away and formed their own criminal organization. They then expanded their activities beyond controlled substance trafficking to include kidnapping, extortion, human trafficking, oil theft, and cybercrime. From the early 2000s till 2015, this cartel has been responsible for some of the worst massacres in Mexico's history, such as the 2010 San Fernando massacre that left 72 migrants dead.
72 immigrants from Ecuador, Guatemala, and Honduras were murdered in Tamaulipas state in Mexico.
The 2011 Casino Royale attack that killed 52 people in Monterrey.
Smoke billows from the Casino Royale in Monterrey, northern Mexico. 24 gunmen burst into the premises on Thursday, apparently with the intention of robbing it. They then doused the inside with flammable liquid and started a fire. And the 2012 Carreta Jimenez massacre that left 49 bodies on a highway.
As Mexican authorities discovered 49 decapitated and mutilated bodies dumped on the highway. The cadavers were found in a pool of blood at the entrance to the desert town of San Juan. Authorities say 43 men and 6 women were found with their heads, hands, and feet cut off.
The CJNG and the Los Zetas have caused thousands of deaths and disappearances in Mexico, as well as widespread fear and insecurity. They have also corrupted and challenged the authorities at all levels, which has posed a serious threat to Mexico's democracy and stability. These were the kind of people Doña Lety went up against and single-handedly pulled them down. As a former law enforcement officer, it was easy for her to compromise local authorities and bribe them to stop protecting her enemies and turn a blind eye to her activities. She and her hitmen would then go on to murder these cartel members in their numbers, and others who went missing have not been found until now. By 2012, Doña Lety had established herself as the undisputed leader of the Cancun cartel, also known as the Doña Lety cartel, or the Leticia Rodríguez Lara cartel. She had become one of the most powerful and feared crime bosses in Mexico. Doña Lety had achieved her goal of becoming the crime boss of Cancun, but she was not satisfied with that. She wanted to expand her empire and make more money. She knew that Cancun was not only a paradise for tourists, but also a gold mine for narco traffickers. She decided to take advantage of the huge demand for narcotics in the resort city, where millions of visitors from all over the world come every year to enjoy the sun, the sea, and the nightlife. So she set up a sophisticated network of drug distribution in Cancun, where she supplied coke coke and other highly addictive substances to local dealers, who in turn sold them to tourists and residents. She also established contacts with international cartels, such as the Colombian and Peruvian cartels, who provided her with high-quality merchandise at low prices. She used her old connections with the airport security and customs to smuggle the substances in and out of Cancun without the authorities seeing or smelling anything. As a demonstration of her power, Doña Lety imposed her own taxes and rules on the businesses and people in Cancun, especially in the tourist zone, where she controlled most of the bars, restaurants, hotels, and nightclubs. Describing how Mrs. Lety forced cab drivers and street vendors to work with her, a man said, "I had to pay attention because I fear for my life, which is in danger." So she has control of the entire hotel zone. With her people, they feel there is nobody else. They force us. They threaten us. We do not gain anything. Everything is for her. She demanded a percentage of their profits in exchange for protection and permission to operate. She also forced them to buy or sell narcotics from or to her network while threatening them with violence if they refused or tried to resist. By now, you can tell how ruthless this woman was with anyone who crossed her or challenged her authority. She ordered and carried out numerous violent attacks against the authorities and any other cartel who wanted a piece of the Cancun pie. One of her most brutal attacks was the gunfire at the Quintana Roo State Prosecutor's Office in January 2017.
Doña Lety, quien fue detenida el 9 de agosto en Puebla junto con un cómplice, se le atribuyen los ataques del pasado 17 de enero a las instalaciones de la Fiscalía de Quintana Roo.
This attack was provoked after the arrest of one of Doña Lety's lieutenants. The gunman opened fire at the building, killing 4 people and injuring 15 others. By early 2017, Doña Lety had become the queen of Cancun, who ruled with an iron fist and had no mercy for anyone who stood in her way or defied her will. She had no respect for the law or the authorities. Neither did she have fear of anyone or anything, except for one thing: being captured by the authorities. Doña Lety had been ruling Cancun for years, and for all those years she was invincible. No one saw or knew too much about her, even to date. But she had many enemies who wanted to see her fall, and she had also attracted the attention of the authorities, who were determined to stop her. She knew that she was a wanted woman, and that she had to be careful and smart to avoid being captured or killed. However, her luck ran out in August of 2017 after her son was captured by the Mexican authorities. It happened that, on July 8, 2017, Doña Lety's son, Rafael S.R., alias El Dover, was arrested in Quintana Roo alongside 4 other suspects from whom the authorities recovered high-caliber weapons and 2 luxurious vans which they used for their operations. From then on, Doña Lety started shuttling between Cancun and Mexico City in search of a connection to get her son out of jail. During this time, she moved with armed escorts and was usually hiding in the states of Tabasco and Veracruz in the south and Puebla in the center. However, 1 month after her son's arrest, on August 9, 2017, Doña Lety was on one such trip on the Puebla-Veracruz highway when she was arrested in Puebla, a city located about 80 miles from Mexico City. She was then moved to a federal prison in Mexico City where she faced multiple charges including trafficking, organized crime, extortion, kidnapping, murder, and money laundering, among several others. On April 10, 2018, she was accused of collaborating with some government officials to steal funds allocated to public health. And just a few days later, the Attorney General's office found 1,500 security boxes where she hid the money through different aliases. Meanwhile, Doña Lety's capture was a major blow to her criminal empire, which had been dominating Cancun for years. Her network of loyal followers and associates was dismantled by the authorities, who seized weapons, narcotics, money, and properties belonging to her organization. Her territory was also disputed by rival groups who saw an opportunity to take over the lucrative tourist zone of Cancun. So the violence and instability in Cancun continued or even increased after her arrest, as different factions fought for control and influence. Meanwhile, Doña Lety remained in prison since 2017, but in October 2023, she was said to have been released from jail after at least 3 charges against her were dropped. Now, given all the crimes this woman, Doña Lety, has committed, do you think she should have been released? Or is there something the authorities are not telling us? Please share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. Thanks for watching. Until next time, stay safe.